You know him from his talk show, and now he's released a brand new book, What Black and White America Must Do Now, which looks at how race is important in America. Host of the Armstrong Williams Show, Armstrong Williams joins us. So let's go right to it, Armstrong. The book is a very provocative title, very provocative. I heard we got to get him out and talk about this. What must black and white America do? I assume it's different for each.
You know, one of the things that we must do, Eric, and thank you for having me on, is that we must get back to one of the cornerstones of this founding of our nation, and that is this rugged individualism. You know, I read Ayn Rand's Fountainhead during the 70s, where she talked about what happens when you can group people in sort of like of a herd, and they lose their individualism and their individuality, and they begin to believe that they think as a herd and not as someone with their own character, their own accountability and responsibility. And if you fast forward to where we are now, we can take the situation with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, or Aubrey. And what happens oftentimes when you have these situations with law enforcement, and if the person who's losing their life is black and the person that's causing it and law enforcement is white, then it blows up in the media. It should not matter, and you may be a little surprised at the conclusion, that Aubrey or Breonna Taylor is black, the law enforcement officers may be white. What we should be outraged about is that we've lost lives for no reason at all. There's no reason why an American who's a human being sleeping in their bed 2 a.m. in the morning should be shot several times for no reason at all by law enforcement. There's no reason for us watching a video of any human being, if it were you, your grandson, some factory worker, some farmer, should have a law enforcement officer have their knee on their neck for almost 9 or 10 minutes and they lose their lives. And what happens when you reduce it to race, you lose the full understanding, the full meaning of what happened, because a piece of all of humanity is destroyed. And while it may look this way today, it could be you next week and somebody else next month. And we must cry out, because we're better than that as human beings, and we're decent.
So Armstrong, let me, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I see with the Black Lives Matter movement, I see a lot of young white kids trying to embrace the Black Lives Matter movement. Does that help things or hurt things, or just muddle the whole issue?
You know, there we go again. It doesn't matter to me that the kids are white. What matters to me is that a lot of these kids are spoiled. They have no idea what it is taken to build America to what it is in today. They don't understand that freedom is imperfect, America is imperfect, and while they want to condemn and make America seem like it is a racist place, it's much more than that. There are people who find themselves in abject poverty. The Great Society programs of the 60s were supposed to move many people out of their situation and help them realize the potential of the American dream, and that did not happen. You take these issues like race and you use it to balkanize and divide people, and people turn it into an industry, and these people continue to suffer, and you become the proxy for their vote. What we've got to do, yes, these kids out here protesting, and many of these kids are looting, and they're the reasons for the violence and the fire that we see at some of these police stations, but obviously they don't understand and appreciate the values of America. Right. And a lot of these kids, their parents took them to private school, took them to college, dropped them off, left them in the hands of these professors, and when they came back to graduation, they didn't even recognize these kids anymore. They've been indoctrinated with this liberalism, with this socialism, with this anti-capitalism, with this anti-Americanism. They believe everything is about race, and America is much more than this. When you talk about race, you haven't even scratched the surface of what is wrong and what's going on in this country and what needs to change and how you go about changing it.
I got about 30 seconds, Armstrong. Keep it really tight for me. Is there, yes or no, systemic racism in America?
Yes, and you will always have people who have in their heart, they make judgments about people based on what they look like and what they sound like. No white person had a monopoly on that. No black person has a monopoly on that. Anybody can do that in a position of power. If you don't have power, you can make people feel a certain kind of way.
We're going to leave it right there. You can catch his show. It's called The Armstrong Williams Show. Also, the book is called What Black and White America Must Do Now. Boy, I got to tell you, there's a very timely book, a very provocative title, timely book, Armstrong Williams. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.